Hello, friends, and welcome to my today's lecture. That is the second part of Jaya's character analysis in Shashi Deshpande's That Long Silence. Friends, in my earlier lecture, that is the first part of the character analysis of Jaya, I had spoken about the novel as being one of the most awarded novels, and also that the novelist Shashi Deshpande in this novel strongly protests against the patriarchal or the male dominated society and also the man made conventions and rules. And I had also spoken that this whole story of the novel was actually unfolded by the main protagonist, that is Jaya, ironically, again symbolizing victory. Whereas in real life situations, we see that Jaya is like any other woman who leads a very traditional and a passive life. We also see that in the novel, Shashi deals with the way she deals with the women writers, not just Jaya, but there are many other women characters like Mukta, Jija, Manda, Nayan, Ai, and Aji, and others, and how she depicts their subaltern status in the society, and also what is actually responsible for the status of women that has been portrayed in the modern novel like That Long Silence. And the family background of Jaya is also related and narrated from where she comes from and the family that she gets into after her marriage. What are the possible connections of hers in her family, her relationship with her husband, and also her life, which has undergone a real transformation. She has been portrayed as a very clever, ambitious, a curious, and a sprightly, bright student or a person before her marriage, but life changed suddenly after she got married. I had also mentioned three women from Indian mythology: Sita, Savitri, and Draupadi, and the way they had accompanied their husband, following their path willingly, though. And Jaya was not supposed to follow such role models, and she had crossed the limit basically because she was, though she also followed her husband, but it was reluctantly and she was forced to do so. Now, in these same novel that talks about Jaya, I had also mentioned the relationship which Jaya shared with her husband Mohan, which had no trace of love and trust in it, which were the major pillars, the two pillars of any relationship, of especially of marriage between the two. And so there was hardly any stable, pious, and natural love between them. Today I'll be talking about the second part, or the remaining portion of the character, Jaya's character in this novel, That Long Silence. Now, usually, as all women do, Jaya also did the same. For in any marriage relationship, the male changes a woman's identity from a girl to a woman, and the male also dominates her life to a great extent. Now, in that whole process, the woman accepts herself as a part of him, and very silently she agrees to all the conditions underlying this whole process. Not because she's afraid to change the society, but more because she fears to change herself, her relations, and her forced identity. Now she becomes very suppressive and feels uncomfortable in adopting that role, which is not she, in quotes. Now, for her, the major problem was also her girl child, because the male child in her family also was preferred more by the society, and at large we see the treatment that is meted out to the male child and the treatment that is meted out to the girl child is totally different. They were The male child is considered as a permanent member of the family, and that the male child inherits the family name, so they are more privileged in that sense. And the novel also questions the nature of relationship between the narrator and her husband, that is Jaya and Mohan, because we know through our reading that they do not share a very good understanding, and love and trust, as I said, hardly rule their lives. Their life is more of adjustment and compromise. And the silence that exists in their life, it grows more with the marital life getting more unsteady and dismal. The silence that has come in Jaya's life is because of a very different kind of a story, which I would relate to you. Now, once Jaya's husband Mohan, he was caught taking bribe, and we all see that when any incident happens in a family, the whole family gets disturbed because of it, and so also happened with Jaya's family, and because of Mohan's this act, what he does is, instead of feeling guilty and taking the blame solely on himself, he accuses Jaya that he had actually committed this crime for Jaya and her children, or that is, he had taken bribe for their sake. The poor woman Jaya, who had no role to play in the whole affair, on being accused of being a party to the crime, for her this whole thought process is revolting. She feels extremely angry at this accusation, and her anger, instead of being expressed, it gets transformed into a long silence. Because for Jaya, silence and surrender are the real strengths of the Indian woman. Now, Jaya in the novel is not portrayed as a feminist character, we see, by Deshpande, but she rather hovers between submission and assertion, where submission is more dominant in her personality or character. But when she's repeatedly accused by her husband, she does react sharply. That also is a point to be noted. Now, she once tells her neighbor, Kamat, and I'll be quoting from the text, and quotes, in quotes, "No woman can be angry. Have you ever seen an angry young woman? A woman can never be angry. She can only be neurotic, hysterical, and frustrated. The three different phases of feminism. Unquote. Now, among these three different phases, the early means imitation of role models, and the limit of which, as I said, Jaya had already crossed. Now, the second phase is of anger and protest, and the novel focuses on this phase itself. And on looking back, Jaya is hardly nostalgic about her past, but yes, there does lie suppressed anger within her, which may burst out any time. Excuse me. And the last phase of this feminism is the articulation and assertion, which are only hinted out as the possible future for Jaya. And we see that the whole novel acts as a preparation for the articulation which will break her long silence. We are also given enough clues that Jaya will break her passivity or passiveness, and even she asserts, in quotes, will have to erase the silence between us. But the actual drama is postponed to the future. Unquote. Now, Jaya, we see that in their earlier married life, was leading a happy life in Mumbai after Mohan's transfer there. And they were blessed with two children, Rahul and Rati. And she was quite devoted to her husband, and she took complete care of them. And yes, and she did find solace in their care too. And there are many more things yet to be narrated about Jaya's character, which I'll be talking about in my next part. Till then, goodbye and thank you, friends.